I had a conversation. I was on Rachel Blevin's show the other day, and I had a conversation about RFK, and we just kind of had like 20 minutes. And I'm like, man, we can talk about it because it's deep. It's a lot of stuff that's going on. Whether we like it or not, the system we're in, choose from column A, choose from column B. There is a choose from column C person in there who's kind of solidified himself as the third candidate, and that is RFK. There are conversations around, does he take more votes away from the right, from Donald Trump, or does he take more votes away from Joe Biden, right? I think where it's at, I think he can take a lot more votes away from Joe Biden that, if we had an election system that was worthy with transparency, right? Then maybe we can stand behind it and get some real results. But RFK establishing himself as the third person has had many ideas that have been great, right? Like, so this is the sad part. I cannot support him because I do believe his stance on Israel, Palestine, occupied Palestine, whatever you want to call it out there, ladies and gentlemen, the back and forth, that area, that land, that region right there, I feel he's just way over the top. And sometimes I know a lot of people out there feel that RFK is more compromised than wrong. They feel that way. I'm not saying that's for you to decide. If you feel like he's compromised and not wrong, because I have a hard time dealing with the fact that I believe that he believes his stance is on Israel. We all realize that a lot of our history that we're taught to us about American history is a little bit bull. It's empire education, as Johnny Tsunami, my old boy, used to refer to. That where they teach you certain things, like we're Captain America going around the globe fighting for human rights. Well, that's just not the case, right? So when they teach you a lot of this stuff, you just tend to say, no way. That's it. RFK, back to him. All these great ideas he had, right? Food sovereignty. Of course, we want to have these conversations. We can't support him, some of us, because we just feel his stance is too much. We feel he's compromised, like I said. But the ideas sometimes that he talks about are amazing, right? He just got some great, great ideas. And even though I can't vote for him and I can't support him, and that's just my personal feelings, I still think that there's a lot of things he can talk about with the fact that he has gotten a lot of support. They said 13% in that last poll. I think it might be more, and I think he might pull more from the Democrats, because I think a lot of Democrats have been like, oh my God, could we have another choice? You know what? RFK has some weird points, but I got him on this and that. There are certain things he does that the culture war people like, right? His stance on life, right to choose, women's rights over there, affirmative action. They think he'll sign an assault ban if he was the president and sitting there, and he said he would. So assault weapons ban. So there are things that the left likes about him. So he can pull from a lot of sides. But once again, getting back to what I'm talking about, it's the ideas that he talks about that are so great, right? And these are things I wanted to talk about, like healthy food sovereignty. Like he talks about, RFK gets you the exact link to how heart disease, we're Heart Attack America, and our food, the way we grow our food, the GMOs and whatnot, that's a direct line to the way we are unhealthy. You know what I'm saying? Donald Trump's not talking about that stuff. We see him picking up shakes at Chick-fil-A or stopping at McDonald's to bring stuff. And, Joe Biden, he got an ice cream cone with him. I think he's got an ice cream cone dispenser in the bathroom, for crying out loud. The dude's got an ice cream cone every single way. You know what I'm saying? So, and Kennedy, when he does the hits the bar, boom, boom. So he's talking about something that both candidates aren't talking about. Despite his stances that over there, that's a good conversation. Is it hard for people to listen to because they feel he's compromised? Yes, because at the end of the day, they don't know if he'll follow through with a lot of these things, because if he's compromised, then he's compromised. Real climate and water justice. He's got this kind of like, I've heard some negative things about it, but generally when it comes to his history, he's got this kind of Aaron Brockovich mentality of suing, these three-letter agencies that are all out there, not just the CIA and the FBI, but the other ones that control industry and agriculture. And the ideas he's talked about, and he said this, one of the most powerful things about him running is he understands that part of government and how it works and how it's manipulated. So that's an amazing thing. Big pharma, right? Okay. Even park for a second all the amazing stuff he did during the COVID, right? Like, and me and Fiorella were in DC. We covered it as a press team. It was in January. It was cold as can be, but his speech, it was amazing, right? Just captivating. And they censored him for that speech, And just to digress really quickly, I don't want to leave too much about the big pharma stuff because I want to get back to it. But he's also sued big tech too as well. So he'll not just agriculture. He's also just recently sued big tech for censorship. But back to the big pharma. So we have all that stuff during COVID, which he was on top of. The Children's Health Defense Network. He got belittled for his views. He's a quack. Look at all these other Kennedys are voting for freaking Biden. So what? Who cares? Let them vote for Biden. Who are they anyway? Just because they carry the last name. At least that dude has done something despite his awful views as a Zionist. And I'm not going to say that anymore because you think you know. But talking about the SSRIs, my old morning show host, Stephen Poikonen from the Slow News Day he wants to write a book on this one day, and I hope he does because he knows so much on it. And I did a show with Chanda Master called To Hell and Back where we talked about addiction. These SSRIs, how bad they are for human brains, and people's overall health, and how it's linked to some of the mass shooters. Well, Kennedy has talked about that. What other candidate do you hear talking about that? No. In fact, Donald Trump, Operation Warp Speed, because he thought it was going to get him reelected, but he went that way and he didn't fight for his executive order, which they changed, right? What's her name? Janice Woodcock and Dr. Bright, I believe, changed it. The whole hydroxychloroquine thing. They made it so it was late patients, not early treatment. They didn't give it the right doses. They overdosed it. Plus, they didn't give you the good cocktail that had simply mostly vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, all that stuff, right? He went along with that. That's not where Kennedy was on that stuff. He got, and Joe Biden, please. I want to get a shirt. I'm not going to tell you my ideas. I really wish I had the shirt done. I hadn't asked the guy to work on this one shirt about Joe Biden, but come on. The shot, and he's just, that's where he is. That's where he's at. Not even talking about the thing. So, Kennedy still was amazing. Mental health. Kennedy, he's there, but this latest one is really, really mind-blowing. So, like I said, I was on OAN today talking about election integrity. When you talk about election integrity, the things we need most. The thing that we need most, right? So we need participation from the public. We need, a good chain of custody. But the number one thing overall, what we need is transparency. Transparency is key. Transparency allows us to keep our eye on the lawmakers and those above them who are trying to maintain control. If we have transparency, then it opens the door up to everything in elections, right? We want participation. Yeah, that's great. Get the people involved in their own elections because they have they're the ones who've got stake in the game, right? Get them involved. Have a good chain of custody so it's proper. Do counting at where it's cast, it's counting. All that stuff is great, but transparency. That's why we hold people accountable, and that's what we need. Well, his newest idea just reeks of transparency. It's just amazing. And let's just play the video, and then we'll talk about it right after. Just listen up to closely what RFK says, what he wants to do with the budget.
Put the entire U.S. budget on blockchain so that every American can look at every budget item in the entire budget anytime they want, 24 hours a day. And we're going to have 300 million eyeballs on our budget. And if somebody is spending $16,000 for a toilet seat, everybody's going to know about it.
He wants to put the U.S. budget on blockchain. Look, I know people have his views. I've talked about it many times with Sam Husseini, and Sam hits it on the nose. He split the anti-establishment movement right in half. I think he called him a Judas goat was his term, right? And Sam has the right to use that. That's the way he feels. And, I was very surely disheartened by a lot of those decisions because I used to just be so excited to see the new video he made. What was he talking about? Where we go? Even the whole situation himself with Israel-Palestine, he mishandled, right? But the ideas that are brought to the table. When I got criticism in the beginning, when I was supporting RFK or leaning into RFK, he had never won my vote. I never pledged my vote to anybody, and I won't do that until I see something solid. He's been getting these conversations out there. They're just amazing, and that we need to continue to have and putting that on the blockchain, I think is amazing. They said he's polling up to close to 18%. So it's interesting, and it's okay to have these conversations. And sometimes I often wonder, like, so let's talk about that angle really quickly. So a lot of people, because I think with the Epstein plain revelations of sorts when it comes to RFK, that's why they believe he might be compromised. I mean, we're just in that's where we're at today. Modern times today, a lot of people understand what happened with Jeffrey Epstein. They don't honestly believe that conspiracy theories are conspiracy theories. They believe there's conspiracy truths. That's most people nowadays. They're like kind of like saying, okay, something's going on over here. So I think they feel that he is like, what I've said it many times. That therefore, he's compromised. He's not just making a bad decision. But yeah,